Hey Tim, look at this.
Needs work.
Hey Tim, how about this?
Still needs work.
Darn it. How about this?
Nice, high five.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
My name's Tim.
And my name's Michael.
And you're watching TMI.
That's the Tim and Michael Information Show. Elbow, my dude.
Yes.
I haven't seen you in a very long time.
Not like this.
Not like this.
We've done some stuff on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
We've over the internet, as everyone's been doing. And I think even before that, we just had a hiatus where we were kind of living separate lives and hadn't done a whole lot.
I remember talking to somebody and showing them. They said, "Oh, I have a show that I do with my buddy every intermittently on the YouTube."
Mm-hmm.
And then I sent them my page, and they said, "Oh my God, you have X amount of episodes?" I said, "I guess we do. I guess we don't we, you know?" And so it's kind of cool to know that we've actually made a mini legacy for ourselves after all these years. So
we just like to talk, and when we talk about something new, that's a new episode. You just cut, insert the intro again. There we are. So that's how it works.
I have ideas for a new intro. I should tell you between episodes.
Okay, I'm open to it.
But now that shots are being had and things are getting better, we waited well over 14 months to get together. Make sure that you people are being safe. And we're here to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series.
Yes.
Follow up from our WandaVision series. My friend, tell me about this.
Yeah. So this is... I discovered this at the library. This is not the library copy, of course. This is all new Captain America. This is the comics chronicling of Sam Wilson becoming Captain America after Steve Rogers, at least in the comic, becomes too old to take up the shield. Now, I don't know the precursor to this. I haven't read those comics. My understanding is somehow the serum has been extracted from the body of Steve Rogers, and he no longer has super strength. So he sort of counsels Sam, and Sam takes up the shield and continues wearing his Falcon apparatus and serves as the new Captain America. So it ends up looking very, very much like how Sam ends up looking in episode 6 of The Falcon Winter Soldier, which was very rewarding for someone who's read the comic.
I guess we should have said spoiler alerts, obviously. It'll be in the descriptions. Did you read this before seeing the show?
I did. I read this well before, not just the show, but well before Endgame. So that little moment, like I was telling you at the very end, when Steve hands off the shield to Sam and says, "Here, this is yours," and Sam's like, "Oh, it feels like it belongs to somebody else," and
it doesn't.
I got excited because I knew
like someone else's.
This was coming, and this tackles a little bit of the issues you see in the show that the show tackles of what does it mean to have a black Captain America, and are people okay with that or not okay with that, but it doesn't tackle them as comprehensively as the show did, which I think the show did beautifully.
I'm gonna tap in there too. I'm glad we went straight to it because I remember being a kid and my mom explaining to me like the importance of Black History Month. She said, because your grandpa's black. Quick story, being a kid, I said, Grandpa who? I only have one grandpa. My dad's dad passed away when he was a boy, so I didn't get to meet him. But I still asked my mom, Grandpa who? She's like, Grandpa Jeter. And all of a sudden, as my mom describes it, me finding out that my grandpa was like Martin Luther King was like this big revelation for me. I was like, oh my, you mean he's like Martin Luther King? Like he's famous? And he was in my own right, and we watched the Green Book after it was streaming on HBO, and my mom was talking about, your grandpa talked about this, and going through that. And I remember hearing stories of, him being an athlete in the 50s, and staying at the Y, with his group, it's all of these stories are always in me. And so when I heard that line, they're never gonna accept a black Captain America, it's so much more than just even a Captain America. It echoes so many stories that I've heard growing up, and even things that I've seen up until this very day. As a kid, you think it's history, but it's such an important conversation to have, because you can say just the same amount of thing of people not being accepting of a new Doctor Who. There's always people that are not ready for a new thing, or maybe you're not ready for, who knows, a woman president or whatever it is. And I think, people are still stuck. There's so many molds that need to be broken going forward. And I'm happy that we had a television show to do this with, because just like you and I were saying for WandaVision, how many minutes of screen time do these performers get in a movie when they're sharing with a big cast? Like in Civil War, how much does, Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan get on screen versus a show that's all about them?
Absolutely.
And now we've got I would venture to say there's more screen time with them in these shows than maybe their counterparts have had in their previous films. Almost, I'd have to do some math, but what a it's 6 episodes, right?
6 episodes, almost an hour long.
What a fantastic time to spend, really show, because when you finally see him in that suit, I felt so happy. I was just so like, yeah, because it wasn't just a thing like he was just going to get into it. It was, it's you want to earn it, I can imagine being in that position. I couldn't do it.
Right.
But then you do make the decision of giving the shield away, and then you see what they do with it, and even, Bucky's bit about, he's not just upset that he gave it away. He says, because if you gave it away, that means Steve was wrong about you. And then if he was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me. It's all so complex.
It really is.
It's all so complex. And I know that the producers, D'Esposito and Feige, they're all doing master planning and works. But rewatching the series with my dad, the whole MCU, and what film was it? Was it in Civil War where they're fighting?
Fighting each other, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And
that's the airport battle, so...
Yeah, and then they're like, I hate you. And I was like, did you guys know, like, they were going to take those two and then push them into a show? I don't know. I had a lot of fun watching it.
I did too. I don't think I expected to enjoy this show as much as I did. And part of that is because we've seen so little of them, and they're always second fiddle to these other characters. You look at a title like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and you're like, oh, it's going to be the sidekick show. It'll be like a Captain America movie, but not quite as good. I mean, if it was going to be a big, good Captain America movie, they'd put it on the big screen, because that's where those stories go. And could not have been more wrong about that. I mean, for one, Sam and Bucky do a great job serving as leading characters in their own right. They absolutely carry this show. And number two, this doesn't feel like a small adventure. Never mind the fact that it's television. This does not feel any less epic or important than any of the movies we've seen previously. Actually, I mean, in a lot of ways, I enjoyed this more than some of the individual films. Because you talked about how have we seen... perhaps in this one show we've seen as much screen time of Bucky and Sam as we have for some of the other marquee heroes like Iron Man and Captain America. And I suspect it probably about breaks even, but you also have to look at how that time is being spent. So if you have a 2-hour and change movie, the studio feels obligated to dazzle audiences for a good portion of that movie. A lot of that is going to be dedicated to battles and fights and all sorts of action sequences that are fun to watch, but ultimately are longer than they need to be to advance this story forward. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's what we go to the movies for. A lot of us want stuff like that. I know I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But a lot of the great, meaningful themes that these movies raise and bring up don't get fully explored, because there's only so much time left over after all of that to do that. Enter a show like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where every episode you get that 5, sometimes 10-minute action sequence, but then you also have all this other time left over to really look into those themes and say, all right, what can we actually tackle in this show? What should we explore? This feels like a fully thought out, explored show. It was really, really wonderful to watch and brought up some really great, challenging topics.
To echo that, I think I was just about to say, I want so many more television shows now.
Yeah.
Because of how much more time I get to spend with people. I mean, we got a Loki show coming up next, and you told me that WandaVision was supposed to come second in line, but then because of the shutdown, they were put, because they filmed in Europe. right?
Oh, obviously
Falcon
for
Winter
this,
Soldier,
yeah.
you know, you were the one who told me that too. And then when I saw it, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is so." Watching it with my dad, the show, we grew up watching James Bond, and it had some slight Bond-esque, moments in there that I was super into. But still, I know even one of my Love Doctor friends, if you're watching, you know which one you are. They were absolutely ready for Falcon Winter Soldier. They've met one of the men, and
interesting.
refer to them as like one of their dads. They got the photo from the convention and everything. When you have that kind of respect and adoration for the performer, and they're playing these characters, you just can't wait for more. I feel like there's a handful of people, my not daughter included, with WandaVision, my Love Doctor for Falcon and Winter Soldier, people who have been such fans of these characters the entire time, even before we fully saw them on screen. Sebastian Stan said that they took him aside after he got Bucky, and they said, "So by the way," they said, there might be more with this character, just so you know. And they're like, okay. and of course, here I'm thinking, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Endgame, but like your own show. Your own show. It's pretty fantastic. And what is the next film that we get to see them in? Do we know?
So we get to see them. That's hard. It's hard to keep track because there's so much that Marvel's putting out, especially with sort of the backlog from last year. There are rumblings, which you've probably heard. There's going to be a Captain America 4 with Sam Wilson in the role of the Cap, which he's excited for, and that's what I'm doing on the inside too. And that also begs an interesting question of, when a show does well, it spawns a second season of a show. You expect that. And it's just like films do well, they spawn a sequel. We're in an interesting position where the show's done so well that it's going to spawn another feature film, allegedly, based on two characters that have already been in films. Bucky was already very central to Captain America 2. This tapestry is just becoming even more complex and interesting and intricate in the Marvel universe, which I appreciate, because we've had Marvel TV before. We had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a number of years, and Agent Carter. We had Runaways and Cloak and Dagger, which were supposed to be part of the MCU, but never seemed to tie into it, and even stylistically feel very different. So it's nice that the TV is not just sort of a lesser version of the cinema and kind of off to the side, but they're starting to mesh together and weave and impact each other.
Right, I remember hearing when Jessica Jones was coming out, and Kristen Ritter is like one of my favorite people to watch. So I remember hearing, "Oh, you get to be in a show," and I was super excited. But the reason why that was the thing that made me actually want to start watching is because I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, when they did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Joss Whedon was a little opposed to that, because, again, the dregs of my memory at the moment, he had his mantra of, your heroes don't always win, right? And so when we lost Coulson, that hurt. And then I heard when they brought him back for the show, I think Whedon said something like, well, then why did I do it?
Right, exactly.
And so for that reason, and I know there was like a tie-in post Thor: The Dark World, where they're cleaning up the mess, and I think they say something like, these Asgardians always leave a mess, every time they visit her. And I think Lady Sif even shows up, in there, which in the beginning I was like, well, that's cool, but then I don't see her in Ragnarok. And so I'm like, is there more tie-in there? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the movie still treated it as it was, and we didn't see Coulson again until a prequel, for Marvel, Captain Marvel. It's Marvel.
Carol movie.
And so, I still need to go back and watch those shows, because I completely admit that I didn't, because of, like I said, the director's note, Joss Whedon's note, talking about it and thinking, oh, well, if one of the visionaries is kind of having a thing about it, and then I'm hearing, as they're making our new shows, these shows are tied in, WandaVision, Loki, Falcon Winter Soldier, these are so tied in, you can't deny it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like you could watch the other shows. Have you seen them?
I have seen the first 5 or 6 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to finish it. I'll start it. I'm going to start it. I'm going to start it. I'll watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if you do...
Okay.
Then we'll do an episode on it. And I know there's some of my friends that are watching this that are like, you need to watch it. They've been telling me I need to watch it. I'm like, I know, I will, I promise. And then we'll do an episode on that.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of shows, including Daredevil. I mean, Daredevil's one of the first shows that I heard people talking great things about, even if it is separate or whatever. I mean, I think it's just as important as watching something like the first 3 Spider-Man film, or the X-Men, to know, like, this is what's going on, even if it's not part of MCU. All of the producers want them all together again, especially as we're moving forward and I'm starting to see titles that I don't recognize or know anything about. It's like when the splash sheets that Marvel releases that have all the titles, and the when they're supposed to come out. I remember when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, I had no idea. I'm more of if you've seen the show, I'm more of a DC guy.
Yep.
I am very unknowledgeable when it comes to this stuff. I'm like, I don't know who the Guardians are. I don't know what that is. And I'm really excited that there's more titles on the new splash sheet that I saw that I don't know what those are. And I'm going to find out, just like everybody else, And, but a season 2 for Falcon Winter Soldier would be really interesting because you can't do a season 2 WandaVision,
right?
And we're used to having several seasons of shows, but maybe does doing a second season push it to, like you were just saying, this doesn't feel like a show. It felt just like it was part of the cinema, the universe. It didn't feel like a show. I've seen a clip of some episodes of Agent Carter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That looks like a show. These did not look like shows. So if we do a second season, does that push it to more showy, or?
I don't know. I hope not, because Marvel's the golden goose for Disney right now. And that clearly shows with the quality of first WandaVision and now Falcon and Winter Soldier, because they just turn up the dial to 11 on production quality. And I can only assume that with how successful they've been, how successful the movies continue to be, that is going to continue. Well, especially with shows like The Mandalorian too, which is also very high caliber of production quality.
Shout out to Jon Favreau, by the way. Oh, that man... Which we probably might not have had on MCU if that first Iron Man wasn't so as popular. Happy Hogan! Happy Hogan needs his own movie.
That'd be nice.
He's so... I love watching him. I'm so bummed that they took a little bit of him out of Infinity War.
Yeah, well, they had a lot to do in that film, but he came back.
He did?
Not just Endgame, but he also had a very prominent role in Spider-Man Far From Home, which was great because he was kind of cold towards Peter in Homecoming. So it was nice that he and Peter got to bond over the mutual loss of Tony Stark and form a little bit of a friendship there.
Though I don't think his bit inside Infinity War was all that much. He's driving around on a golf cart, and then he's getting paparazzi away from, Tony and Pepper. And then that's it. That's it. I mean, so for me, I was like, come on, keep it in. I just really like Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
I just really like seeing him on screen, and I thought it was, that was him in the suit, in the big iron suit when he comes out of the cave.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he got to wear it,
Interesting.
So I'm like, wow.
I did not know that.
Little tidbits. I just barely learned that like a month or so ago, so.
Okay.
Any other final thoughts on Falcon Winter Soldier? Highlights, things we like or want to talk about, or...
Yeah, I think we've got to at least touch on the theme of symbolism in the film, because that comes up a lot in the first episode, continues for the next 2 episodes, and even though they don't talk about it as much, you really start to see it throughout the whole show. So what do you think of that? What do you think are some of the key things they say about symbolism, and which ring true to you?
It's interesting. I know I'm kind of jumping off of it and going into costumes.
Okay.
But I can't help but look at the new Cap suit, that they made, and you know, every time you see that star, you know, it means a lot to people. You know, we've seen the Star and Stripes for forever. Did you notice that the on the strap that star is broken? It's on
This
his
is episode 6.
no, not Sam's cap suit, not the Falcon suit.
Other John Walker's.
John's
it's got the
suit.
little...
It's got a strap and it's got the star, but it's broken. The part of it is down here.
Interesting.
It's not a complete. And I would love to talk to the costume designers and say, like, I know it's a functional thing, you know, to have the straps there, but the star is broken. It's not a solid star. Every time I've seen it on anybody else, on Steve, on Sam, it's a star. It's a star. But on his, it wasn't a solid star. It was a broken star. You know, you talk about what it stands for and what it sees, and Sam didn't have to say that he was the new Captain America. Somebody else just said it when they saw him. They're like, it's a fucking this. No, that's Captain America. You know, I mean, John had a very different idea of what that suit and title or helmet or whatever you want to focus on symbolizes. We all have our own, you know, version of it. And they talked a little bit about, you know, well, what does the serum do? They're like, well, it just makes you more of you, right? Steve, throughout all that series, I mean, even Scott, you know, and Rocket were like, you know, after his speech, he's really good at those.
Yeah.
You know, like, it was the man behind it that made that symbol what it is. And that's why, you know, because he was just a kid from Brooklyn, you know, who was really smarter than most other people when it came, you know, the flag bit, you know, get the flag, you know, pulled out the pin, grabbed it, gets to ride back. I mean, he had the heart. He had the complete heart. I could do this all day, you know, when he grabbed that shield. They are big shoes to fill, you know, and it's not just, you know, America, you know, that it stands for, but it's about doing the right thing. You know, it's about standing up for your ideals and these truths and that we hold self-evident. If I'm borrowing now from some famous document, I don't know. I think it's public domain now, right?
200 years? Yeah, that's
and
well past the statute of limitations there.
So,
yeah.
I think Sam did so much work, you know, especially when he was talking to the other super soldier, you know, saying like, you know, what they did to me, you know, they locked me up, you know, and even dedicating a section of him, you know, in the museum, you know, you're seeing that statue. We see statues all the time here in America, you know, parks, museums we go to. We kind of forget who those people even are. You know, there's a Paul Revere statue at like a heritage park or something, and you're like, oh, never mind the fact that he wasn't actually the one that did most of that route. You know, when you look in his, there was several riders that evening, but hey, someone had to make a paper the next day.
Yeah. And
so they tapped in a lot of imagery that I think we're very familiar with, which is why WandaVision was great that it dealt in fantasy. This show is very real, and I think I'm jumping subjects now, but when you look at the blip, you know, we should do a whole episode on the blip.
There's so much to talk about.
Is what we need to do. You know, I mean, refugees, people that are kept out of their, you know, spaces. We often look at cinema as a way and means of escape. You know, that's always been, you know, it's our fantasy. But I love it when it's saying something very real about the state of the world, and things aren't perfect, you know, but what does that star mean to you? What do those stripes mean to you? You know, anybody can wear it, you know, and you can see what happens when you make bad decisions. Yeah, that's, you want to talk about imagery.
You want to talk about real.
Ugh.
I mean, we've seen all kinds of horrible, or not, I guess not injuries, but people have gone through all sorts of stunts and taken all kinds of falls, and then but nothing seems more real than when John Walker just brings the shield on that Flag Smasher, and it's...
And I don't know that we've seen the
Grizzly.
shield stained quite like that
Yeah.
before, with that much blood on it. That's a cue of like, ugh, like the other guy wouldn't have done this, if I'm turning into the old man in my house. And but God, you notice you and I both did that. Like it's a scene. I don't know if someone storyboarded that, and then they said this is the scene of scary, that I want to get.
Right.
And I know I've gone off on a few different tangents now, but turning it over to you, just because I'm like,
I mean, you bring up a lot of good points that I could talk about for hours on. Interesting point you bring up with the shield, though, with that shot, that upshot in slow-mo, and you know exactly what's going to happen, like you pointed out. And coming to think of this now, this could just be a storyboarder who's very well experienced with what we're thinking and what we're going through when we watch the shield used in other ways. Because we've seen throughout the movies and even in this show where Cap will throw the shield and it kind of ricochets off somebody and they just kind of go, ugh, and and there's no blood and they just kind of get knocked out. And you're like, boy, that's because we've all handled like a can lid and cut ourselves. We're like, boy, shouldn't that like break some bones or dig into the skin or do more damage? So I think when they really emphasize that moment, you know exactly what's going to come and you realize, oh my gosh, this is about to get way more real than anything we've seen. And it really is. But I also kind of appreciate that because, like Zemo pointed out, our hero, by the way, did not expect to enjoy him as much in the show
Same.
as I did. Wow.
Same. Because I saw Civil War. Fantastic actor, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
First saw him in Inglourious Bastards, I think like a lot of people.
Okay.
Did you see that film?
I have not.
No.
After Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we do that one?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you just need to see it for yourself.
It's
I
true,
mean,
yeah.
even, now I'm blanking on names because I'm not in Tarantino universe right now. I'm in, one of the actors in Tarantino's film, he says if you're German, it's inevitable that you're going to play a Nazi.
Huh.
Is what he said in Hollywood. But he said he liked Quentin's script because of how charismatic he made some of those people. And I'm blanking on all of their names because I'm not in Tarantino. Watch, we come back, I'll know them off the top of my head. I'm thinking like
You can mention them in the post-credits scene.
I can.
You'll remember them. We'll start filming again.
I can.
Stick around, folks.
And also I like we as fans talk, and whoever listens.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta hand it. Did you see that Marvel after the actor said, "Oh, I actually improvised more of a dance,"
Interesting.
And then they said they only used a few seconds of it. That was it. And then fans started saying, "Show us more of the dance."
And Daniel Brühl in the club?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then the next week, what does Marvel do on their Instagram? They found more of the footage and they put together a longer cut of the dance.
Oh, I gotta find that.
Oh, you have? Oh,
Yeah.
dude, gotta get on that Insta.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's where I saw it, and there's more dance, and you're like, wow. And just the fans were so happy.
Mm-hmm.
We're just so happy. Marvel is very acutely aware. And if it's within their power, because here's the thing that other people, I don't think understand. Like, we're here spouting off our opinions, and who are we? We're just fans,
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are professionals. I know you and I do a lot of work behind the scenes with our productions and separate lives. But, we're not directly involved with the thing that we're talking about.
Right.
At least as of right now, we're not. And so we can say as much as we want, but I feel like there's certain fans that get very offended when they're like, why don't they listen to me? I think it would help if people try to make a film or get involved and really try to make something. We often are uneducated and don't realize how much goes into something, how much work and how many variables there are. It's tough. It is super tough. So it is nice, though, when the fans are clearly talking about something and then they feel like they get a win. You know, because that's a win for the fans. It's like we said something and they listened. That's the word. They listened. It's like they're always listening.
Yeah.
They're always hearing you. Whether or not they can feasibly actually do something about it, you know, besides, maybe them hearing you was just in line with what they were already going to do. Maybe we're trying to be on the same page. It's hard because you can't please everybody, they say. You know, who's your audience? Your audience is like 15,000 different types of audiences wrapped up into one. You know, these movies are making billions of dollars around the world now. So it's nice when the fans do get a win. And seeing Zemo dance, hey. Because remember, what did Marshall tell us? Your antagonist or new protagonist could be the worst person in the world. They could be the absolute worst, but as long as they are making decisions that push your story forward, you're going to like that person. So, I mean, hey.
Yeah. Well, the challenging thing with Zemo, and he brings to mind a meme I've seen a few times where I think it's a guy pouring like kind of a pot of coffee with this bewildered look on his face. And it's like, when you're listening to the villain's speech and he's low-key making sense. I mean, Zemo says some things where you're like, yeah, I can see your reasoning behind that. How when somebody becomes a symbol, we forget their flaws. We forget that they are human. Now, does that mean we shouldn't have symbols? No, because I think symbols are something to rally behind. Also, how do you even act on that? I mean, you look at like Carly Morgenthau, who is not trying to be Captain America, not trying to be any kind of symbol. She's just trying to go out and fight her fight. And yet, she's becoming the face of the Flag Smashers movement. And people are rallying behind her as a symbol. Or even one of her compatriots tells her in that one episode, I didn't think there could be another Captain America until I met you. And she's become a symbol without even trying, without trying to do anything other than what she feels is the right thing.
I think it was another one of my professors, Bill Mittler. He told us, you know, every antagonist is the hero of their own story. Mm-hmm. Marvel's done that really well. Vulture, Thanos.
Thanos is the one I think of every time.
I mean, they're, you know, I'm the only one who knows that. You know, like, they're so convinced, and they have to be. They absolutely have to be. So even Zemo in Civil War, even, again, we don't get as much screen time, right? But now that you got a little bit more, hey, that guy who I didn't like, am I actually liking now? Do you watch any Walking Dead? So if I say it's the Negan effect, it may not mean much to you.
Okay.
But for some people that are like, oh yeah, like, I hate that guy. I'll never like that guy. Do I like that guy now? I kind of like that guy now. What am I saying? You know?
Yeah.
Narratives do the strangest things to you. Oh, and what's going to happen? Julia Louis-Dreyfus shows up and do... Without telling me, do you know anything comic related that she's tied to? No!
No, I do not. We saw the footsteps coming, and you knew this was going to be the introduction of some just deep buried Marvel character like they like to do in the show. You know, like when we got the Agatha reveal in WandaVision, audiences everywhere went either, I knew it, or who? Like, nobody was surprised by it. You were either confused or you were, elated. But yeah, you knew it was going to be some Marvel character. She states her name. I have no idea. I look her up. I still have no idea. So I'm going in, same as you, just completely blind to who this character is going to be, but could be interesting.
I have no idea. And we know that she's going to do more stuff with Walker. Mm-hmm. So now he's got super. So
man's a loose cannon.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of, again... After that, I was like, don't like this guy. You know, when they took the shield and they broke his arm, I was like, good.
Yeah.
But then he shows up at the very end and he actually kind of helps them and he's walking with them and I'm like, okay, mister, but I got my eye on you.
I'm glad you brought that up. Because, when you first meet Walker, you like him. You're skeptical of the... In episode 2, when they're going through his resume and he's kind of being humble about it, I kind of want to give him a chance. But then you don't have to spend much time with him to be like, yeah, I'm kind of with... Like, I don't like how Falcon and... Sam and Bucky kind of give him the stink eye, but they're being kind of condescending towards him, which seems a little unfair, but I think they can also pick up a little bit of the stink on him, which you start to pick up the more you watch the show. But yeah, I mean, I kind of like him. the first time I meet him, it's not long before I'm like, yeah, you're a little too cocky for my taste. You hate him by episode 4 when he does that. But then I find I can't help myself rooting for him a little bit when he shows up and starts helping, like you pointed out, in episode 6.
There was something about him in the locker, because we see him at the very end of, one of the episodes, and like, you're new Captain America, and you're like, no! Who are you? And then you see him, in the locker, and he's talking about, but they were saying something about, did he already throw up, or,
He had the butterflies in his stomach, for sure.
Yeah, and I was like, there was just a couple clues and cues in there, and where was he? Was that his old, locker that he was looking at,
because he peeled off the sticker, and there was, the JW, and you're like, oh, John Walker.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay.
His old locker.
So was he a football player then? Is that what that was? Was that a high school?
Yeah.
That he was at? So, I mean, it's and I hate to stick to the tropes of what we're used to in films, but I'm looking at the kid from Captain America, Steve, young Steve, and then I'm looking at him, and I'm trying to see where they're both from, because you can have anything on your recommendations and your commendations, but even so, as Sam has shown us, and I'm glad they talked about, he wanted to talk to Carly. He says, this is what I used to do. I used to, or he still tries to lead these seminars, for people. Steve picked it up, after Sam was gone, He was holding these these self-help groups, for people. I just barely have that light bulb right now. Great. So I'm like, aha! Steve did the thing that Sam used to do. And we know that war has done things to people, and because I've had some family who served, the longer your record, that's great on paper. But aside from paper, what's it do here? Mm-hmm. What's it do here? So I was very wary the second I saw him. It was just, I got squinty eyes the entire time. And so now I'm really watching him closely. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but he's got powers now, or he's strength. Yeah. We'll see.
And one line that I keep coming back to is when they're in the truck, they've just kind of botched the mission with the flag smashers, and they first discover, they're super soldiers. And Bucky's like, you ever jumped on a grenade? And John's like, yeah, 4 times. I got a special helmet for it. If you can jump on the grenade 4 times, you kind of miss the point of the question. But that also tells you everything you need to know about John Walker, that he's kind of the big shot who wants to play the hero. Steve isn't concerned about looks. He's just true blue patriot, and he's going to do what it takes to protect his country. He doesn't care if he looks good doing it or not.
Same as Sam. I mean, Sam's always been, just from the second you saw him leading a group therapy, you knew that this was a guy who legitimately cared about being on the right path and helping others get on that right path too. So, and I know that in the beginning there were some people that were sort of miffed about, Bucky not getting the shield. But I think as the show goes on to show, Bucky's got a lot of healing that he still needed to do, I don't think he would feel right carrying the shield, knowing the kind of past that he has. Again, he's coming to terms with it now. He's doing that therapy work. Also, I applaud the show because I've been watching a few more shows lately that have been great about addressing mental health in a very public way and normalizing things like therapy. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was one of them, and because I watched that at the same time that I was watching Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon. I just called him
Captain America 2.
Captain America 2.
Clear things up.
Can't call it Captain Falcon. He's Captain Falcon. No, he's Captain America. Watched Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Falcon and Winter Soldier at the same time. Okay. Both of those shows have very good themes about, mental health and, normalizing it. And I thought that was good. Therapy's a thing. It helps if you have the chance to, This just became a PSA for mental health. But that's what a good show can do, right? That's what it can positively show us the right way. Look, there's right and there's wrong. This is probably not right.
Yeah. And having conversations too, because you're, like you said, this is a very real show. It's tackling some very serious issues that are very relevant to us today. And I think it did a great job of being fairly neutral, not being very pointed about one side or the other, but we're seeing the whole thing through Sam's eyes as he just sits down and tries to understand the issue and then tries to help people. It's not about drawing lines, not about taking sides. It's just, that's when he became Captain America to me. In episode 4, when he shows up to Carly and says, I just want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
He's not there to fight her. He's not there to beat down the other guy. He's just there to try to figure her out, understand her better, and hopefully help her understand his side of things and meet somewhere in the middle. And I think the show did a great job of balancing these tough issues in a way that is very accessible, that I think is great to both sides, if we can, we're a very divided country right now, unfortunately. And, I don't usually like movies that have, or shows that have a big agenda or are super political. I don't feel like this was really one of them. Or I mean, maybe that's wrong to say, but it did not feel like it was really trying to, jab me with some kind of message.
Well, I think the thing with certain shows that jab you is they have their opinion and they're like, this is my opinion, ha! Mm-hmm. As opposed to with a show like Falcon Winter Soldier, it says, listen, we can still come together. And I think that's the way to deliver a message, is not, this is what I think about
True.
it. That's not a very good way of delivering a message, as opposed to, look, people, like, I just want to talk. Just like you said,
And listen being the key word there, too, Sam he listens to Isaiah's story, and he pulls a lot from it, but he also forms his own opinion. And it seems like the show gives you a lot of space to do that, too, which I think is really great.
And completely side note, as I feel ourselves winding down, love that training montage with the shield. And now, Homeboy's got a vibranium set of wings.
Yes. Can't rip those off.
Yeah, I know. I was always fascinated because, when you saw Red Wing, you're like, okay, there's probably some Stark tech in there, right? Mm-hmm. Little upgrades here, but Bucky called in a favor. And that Wakandan tech is through the roof. And so when I saw it all, I'm like, this is going to be good. It's going to be real good.
Yeah.
Want to see that suit again. That suit looks so amazing.
Soon. Very soon. Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us for the conversation for Falcon and Winter Soldier. We'll probably talk about something else MCU related. I know we want to talk about the Blip.
Loki's coming too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When's that?
June 9th. They just announced it's moving from Friday to Wednesday. It's not going to air in a Friday slot like the last 2 shows did. Which, what a great way to honor Loki's dad.
Oh,
if you don't get it, Google it.
Okay,
Google it.
I see what. Okay, nice, nice, clever.
I don't know if that was intentional, but that's what I got out of it.
That's what I'm stealing from. I'm gonna say that too, and I'm gonna let some people do some googling.
You're certainly not gonna do it on Thursday, that's for sure.
Well, they should release. They should release Love and Thunder on a Thursday.
Oh, interesting.
That's what that's. We'll see.
That'd be some fun marketing. That's another conversation.
That's another. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us.
And we'll see you the next time.